This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
Some countries have not taken a helpful position in terms of oil and gas prices, the head of the International Energy Agency said on Wednesday, saying not enough supply was reaching consumers. A factor I would like to underline that caused these high prices is the position some of the major oil and gas suppliers, and some of the countries did not take, in our view, a helpful position in this context, Fatih Birol said in an online presentation. Some of the key strains in today's markets may be considered artificial tightness, because in oil markets today we see close to 6 million barrels per day in spare production capacity lies with the key producers, OPEC plus countries.
A global shortage of nitrogen fertilizer is driving prices to record levels, prompting North America's farmers to delay purchases and raising the risk of a spring scramble to apply the crop nutrient before planting season. Farmers apply nitrogen to boost yields of corn, canola and wheat, and higher fertilizer costs could translate into higher meat and bread prices. World food prices hit a 10-year high in October, according to the United Nations Food Agency, led by increases in cereal crops like wheat and vegetable oils.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
OPEC and its allies are to hold 2 meetings next week to set policy, with a gathering on December 1st for OPEC members only and another on December 2nd for OPEC+, two sources from the producer group said on Wednesday. OPEC Plus will hold its Joint Ministerial Monitoring Committee meeting, JMMC, on November 30th, the sources said.
U.S. crude stocks rose last week as refineries hiked output, while gasoline stocks decreased and distillate inventories fell, the Energy Information Administration said on Wednesday. Crude inventories rose by 1 million barrels in the week to November 19, compared with analysts' expectations for a decrease of 481,000 barrels. Crude stocks at the Cushing, Oklahoma, delivery hub rose by 787,000 barrels, EIA said. Refinery crude runs rose by 243,000 barrels per day, EIA data showed. Refinery utilization rates rose by 0.7 percentage points. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. Chinese coking coal futures surged more than 13% on Wednesday, boosted by improving sentiment in the property market and expectations of higher steelmaking demand at mills, although analysts are flagging risks on weak fundamentals. Financial regulators have told some banks to issue more loans to property firms for project development, in efforts to marginally ease liquidity strains across the industry, according to sources. The ferrous sector is now repairing losses from the previous period on signs of easing stress in the real estate market, said Cheng Peng, an analyst with Sino Steel Futures.
Mexico announced the temporary reinstatement of 15% import tariffs on some types of steel to begin in the next year, aimed at boosting the industry after a slump brought on by the coronavirus pandemic. The tariffs will begin in June 2022 and gradually disappear at the end of 2024, the government said in presidential decree published in the official Gazette on Monday night. The measure applies to more than 100 steel products. The local steel industry requires a period of adjustment that allows it to resort to the necessary legal instruments against unfair trade practices, the decree said.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
India and the United States agreed on Tuesday to expand trade of some agricultural products, including U.S. cherries, alfalfa and distiller dried grains as well as Indian mangoes, grapes, shrimp and water buffalo meat. In a joint statement issued after the first U.S.-India Trade Policy Forum meeting in 4 years in New Delhi, the two countries' trade ministers also discussed the possibility of restoring India's trade benefits under the U.S. Generalized System of Preferences. The statement came as U.S. Trade Representative Katherine Tai ended a 2-day visit to try to rebuild trade ties between the world's richest and largest democracies. That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.